Ever get that feeling, like someone's got a hidden grudge? Maybe you haven't done anything wrong, but the vibes are just off. Well, today we're diving into some surprisingly common reasons why people might secretly dislike you. And get this, we're using Stoic philosophy as our lens.
That's right. We're using an article titled Nine Reasons Why People Secretly Hate You, Stoic Philosophy, to explore the psychology behind these hidden resentments. And what's fascinating is how often it's not really about you, but about the other person's internal world.
Okay, that's kind of a relief to hear, but also intriguing. So let's jump right in. Reason number one is envy and jealousy. I think we all know what those feel like, but how does that translate into someone secretly disliking us?
Well, think of it this way. Envy and jealousy stem from the perception that you possess something they crave, but believe they can't attain. It could be anything: success, achievements, even personality traits. And that gap between what they want and what they believe they can have creates this breeding ground for resentment.
So it's like they're looking at you and seeing a reflection of their own perceived shortcomings.
Exactly. It's not about taking anything away from you, but more about their internal struggle with self-worth. And that's where Stoicism comes in. Marcus Aurelius, one of the key Stoic thinkers, reminds us that envy is the other person's battle, not yours to carry.
Okay, that makes sense intellectually, but emotionally, it's still hard not to take it personally when someone's throwing shade your way,
Absolutely. But here's the thing about Stoicism. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's about understanding them and choosing how we respond. Instead of getting caught up in their negativity, we can practice what the Stoics call apatheia, which is often translated as emotional detachment.
Apatheia, huh? That sounds a bit cold, doesn't it?
Not necessarily. It's more about cultivating an inner stillness that allows us to observe those negative emotions without getting swept away by them. It's like creating a space between the feeling of envy and our reaction to it.
So instead of feeling hurt or defensive, we can kind of step back and recognize that their behavior is more about them than about us.
Precisely. And by recognizing that, we can choose to respond with compassion rather than getting hooked into their drama.
That's a pretty powerful shift in perspective, but how do we actually do that? It's easy to say don't take it personally, but it's a whole other thing to actually let those negative vibes roll off your back.
It takes practice, for sure. But Stoicism offers tools for cultivating that inner resilience. For example, we can focus on finding contentment within ourselves rather than seeking external validation. Because when we're secure in our own worth, we're less likely to be swayed by the opinions or judgments of others.
So it's about shifting our focus from what other people think to what we truly value and believe in.
Exactly, and that's a much more empowering and sustainable source of happiness and fulfillment.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. Now moving on to reason number two, misunderstandings and ineffective communication. Don't we all have stories about this one? It's amazing how even a seemingly small communication slip-up can spiral into a major rift.
It's like that saying, assumptions are the termites of relationships. And it's true, isn't it? We often fill in the blanks with our own interpretations, which can lead to all sorts of miscommunications and hurt feelings.
The article actually highlights this with a really relatable example. Imagine telling a joke that lands totally wrong, and the other person takes it as a personal insult. Ouch.
And that initial misinterpretation can create this lasting barrier of distrust, coloring every interaction that follows. It's like a tiny crack in the foundation that can eventually weaken the whole structure.
So how do we prevent these cracks from forming in the first place? I mean, we can't control how other people interpret things, right?
True, but we can certainly improve our own communication skills. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of clear and intentional communication. It's not just about what we say, but also how we say it, and whether our actions align with our words.
It's about being mindful of our intentions and making sure our communication is congruent, right? Like if we're feeling resentful towards someone, maybe it's not the best time to try and crack a joke.
Exactly. Self-awareness is key. And remember, communication is a two-way street. Active listening is just as important as expressing ourselves clearly. When we truly listen to understand rather than just waiting for our turn to speak, we're less likely to misinterpret what the other person is trying to convey.
Speaking of misinterpretations, maybe this is a good segue into reason number three, differences in values and beliefs. This one feels especially relevant these days when it seems like everyone's got a strong opinion about everything.
We're living in a time of intense polarization, and it's easy to feel like our values are constantly being challenged. And when someone holds beliefs that clash with our own, it can trigger a sense of discomfort, even threat.
It's like, wait, you don't see the world the way I do, but my way is the right way. It's that knee-jerk reaction to defend our own worldview that can lead to judgment and resentment.
The article uses a great example to illustrate this. Imagine a traditionalist encountering someone who lives a very unconventional life. Maybe they have an alternative career path, or they've chosen not to follow traditional societal norms.
That traditionalist might feel judged or even threatened by those choices simply because they challenge their own deeply held beliefs. It's like their sense of security is being shaken up.
And that's where Stoicism offers a powerful antidote. Tolerance and respect for diversity. Epictetus, another influential Stoic philosopher, encourages us to embrace the fact that each person is a product of their unique experiences and environment.
So instead of seeing those differences as threats, we can approach them with curiosity and a willingness to understand where the other person is coming from.
Exactly. It's about building bridges instead of walls. And that starts with recognizing that there's not always one right way to see the world.
Okay, I'm really starting to see how Stoicism can help us navigate these tricky social dynamics. But you know what's not very Stoic? Gossip. Which brings us to reason number 4, the influence of rumors and whispers.
Ah, yes, the rumor mill. It's a powerful force, isn't it? And it has a way of distorting truth and painting people in a negative light, even if the rumors are completely unfounded.
It's like that game of telephone we played as kids, where the message gets twisted and exaggerated with every retelling. Except in real life, the consequences can be much more serious.
Imagine this. You're working on a project with a colleague, and suddenly you hear a rumor that they're trying to undermine you, sabotage your work to make themselves look better. Whether it's true or not, that seed of doubt has been planted.
And it's hard to shake off those suspicions once they take root, isn't it? It can poison the whole working relationship, even if the rumor turns out to be completely false.
Absolutely. It becomes less about facts and more about perception. And once that negative perception takes hold, it's incredibly difficult to change.
So what's the Stoic approach to dealing with gossip and rumors? Do we just ignore them and hope they go away?
Stoicism encourages us to focus on what we can control, our own actions and character. Instead of getting caught up in the drama, we can demonstrate integrity through our words and deeds.
It's like that saying, live your truth and the rumors will die of starvation.
Exactly. Truth has a way of eventually surfacing. And by consistently demonstrating good character, we can chip away at those false narratives.
That makes sense. It's about focusing on building a solid reputation based on our own actions rather than trying to control the whispers behind our backs.
Precisely. And that's a much more empowering and effective approach in the long run.
All right, before we move on to the next reason, I want to pause for a moment and acknowledge that we've covered some pretty heavy stuff so far. Envy, misunderstandings, clashing values, gossip. It's a lot to digest, and it can feel kind of discouraging, like the world is full of negativity.
It's true. These aren't always easy topics to grapple with. But remember, we're exploring these reasons, not to dwell on the negativity, but to understand it, to see how our own choices and perspectives can create a more positive and harmonious experience.
And that's the beauty of Stoicism, isn't it? It offers practical tools for navigating the ups and downs of life, for finding peace and resilience amidst the chaos.
Exactly. And with that in mind, let's dive into reason number 5, which gets into some fascinating psychological territory, personal insecurities, and projection.
Projection. The blame-shifting champion of the emotional Olympics. But seriously, this one feels like it goes really deep. We're talking about unconscious motivations here, right?
Absolutely. Projection is often happening beneath the surface without the person even being aware of it. The basic idea is that when people struggle with their own self-esteem or feelings of inadequacy, they tend to project those negative emotions onto others.
So instead of dealing with their own stuff, they kind of fling it outward onto the nearest target.
It's a defense mechanism, a way of avoiding those uncomfortable feelings within themselves.
The article gives some relatable examples, like someone who's insecure about their appearance might resent someone they perceive as attractive, or someone who's unhappy in their own life might secretly begrudge someone who seems to have it all.
Exactly. They're projecting their own insecurities and dissatisfaction onto you, making you the scapegoat for their own internal struggles.
So if we're on the receiving end of this projection, how do we deal with it? Because it feels so unfair, like we're being punished for someone else's baggage.
It can be incredibly frustrating, no doubt. But here's where Stoicism offers a really powerful perspective: compassion. Instead of getting caught up in their negativity, we can try to understand that their hostility is likely a reflection of their own battles, not a personal attack on us.
That's a pretty radical shift in thinking. Instead of getting defensive or retaliating, we meet their negativity with understanding.
Exactly. It's not about condoning their behavior, but about recognizing that they're acting out of pain and insecurity. And when we can see that, it's easier to detach emotionally and avoid taking their actions personally.
Wow, I can already see how powerful this approach could be in diffusing tense situations. It's like disarming the bomb before it explodes, by recognizing that the real trigger is within them, not us.
Precisely, and that's the beauty of Stoicism. It empowers us to respond to challenging situations with wisdom and grace, rather than getting swept away by our own reactive emotions.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive so far. We've uncovered 5 surprising reasons why someone might secretly dislike you. And it's fascinating how they all tie back to human psychology and the timeless wisdom of Stoicism.
And we're just getting started. In part 2, we'll explore the remaining 4 reasons, delving into the role of empathy, competition, social expectations, and the powerful need for recognition.
Welcome back. I don't know about you, but my brain is already buzzing with all these insights into why people might secretly harbor resentment. It's amazing how much of it really does come down to their own stuff rather than anything we're doing wrong.
It's a real shift in perspective, isn't it? And that's one of the most powerful things about Stoicism. It helps us understand that we can't control other people's emotions or reactions, but we can control how we choose to perceive and respond to those situations.
Okay, so let's dive back into those reasons. We left off with projection, which is such a fascinating and complex psychological phenomenon. But now I'm curious about reason number 6, lack of empathy and understanding. This one feels like it's all about stepping outside of our own little bubbles and truly seeing things from the other person's point of view.
It's about recognizing that everyone is experiencing life through their own unique lens, shaped by their past experiences, beliefs, and values. And sometimes those lenses can distort our perception, making it difficult to truly understand where someone else is coming from.
The article gives a really relatable example. Imagine declining a social invitation because you're genuinely swamped with work or family commitments. But the host, without understanding your context, might interpret that as a personal slight, leading to resentment.
It's that feeling of being blown off, even though your intentions were completely different. And without clear communication and a genuine effort to understand each other's perspectives, those negative feelings can fester and grow.
So it's not just about what we say, but also about how we listen and how we interpret the other person's words and actions.
Exactly. And that's where the Stoic concept of sympathia comes in. It's this idea of recognizing our interconnectedness, of understanding that we're all part of this larger web of humanity.
Sympathia, it's kind of like the opposite of apathy, right? It's about engaging with the world and the people around us with a sense of shared experience and understanding.
Precisely. And it's about recognizing that everyone is carrying their own burdens, facing their own challenges. When we can approach others with that kind of empathy and understanding, it's much easier to let go of those petty resentments and build stronger, more compassionate relationships.
So next time I'm feeling frustrated or misunderstood, maybe I should take a moment to consider what might be going on in the other person's life, what might be influencing their actions.
That's a great takeaway. And it leads perfectly into reason number 7, which takes us into the competitive arena, competition and rivalry. This one is particularly relevant in work environments, social circles, even within families.
It's that age-old comparison game, isn't it? We're constantly measuring ourselves against others, especially in those settings where success and achievement are highly valued.
Yeah, and when someone perceives that you're outperforming them, it can trigger feelings of inadequacy, envy, and resentment. Even if your achievements are well-deserved, they might struggle to celebrate your wins because it highlights their own perceived shortcomings.
The article gives the example of receiving praise at work while a colleague feels overlooked. It's not that they want you to fail, but they might struggle to be genuinely happy for you because it stings a little too much given their own feelings of being undervalued.
It's a natural human reaction.
Right.
But it can create a toxic dynamic if it's not addressed. And that's where Stoicism offers a really valuable perspective, shifting our focus from competition to collaboration.
Instead of seeing each other as rivals, we can recognize that we're all on the same team, working towards a common goal.
Exactly. And by embracing a mindset of abundance, where we celebrate each other's achievements, we can transform those competitive vibes into opportunities for collective growth.
That's a really powerful reframing. It's about recognizing that another person's success doesn't diminish our own. In fact, it can inspire us to strive for greater things ourselves.
And speaking of striving for things, let's talk about social expectations, which is reason number 8. This one can be particularly challenging for those who choose to forge their own path, to live outside the conventional norms.
We live in a society with all sorts of unwritten rules and expectations, right? And when you deviate from those norms, maybe you choose an unconventional career or opt out of traditional milestones like marriage or parenthood, it can make some people uncomfortable.
That discomfort often stems from their own deeply held beliefs and the fear that your choices might somehow invalidate their own life choices. It's like their sense of security is being shaken up by your audacity to live differently.
I've definitely experienced this myself. When I decided to pursue a career as a writer, some people in my life were really supportive, but others not so much. They couldn't understand why I would choose a path that was so uncertain and unpredictable.
And that's precisely what Epictetus, one of the Stoic greats, warns us against. Living according to the expectations of others rather than according to our own nature. He believed that true freedom lies in aligning our actions with our values, even if that means going against the grain.
So it's about having the courage to be authentic, even if it ruffles a few feathers along the way.
Exactly. And remember, their discomfort is often a reflection of their own insecurities, not a judgment on your worth. It's about their struggle to reconcile their choices with your different path.
That's a really empowering reminder. It's not our job to make other people comfortable with our choices. Our responsibility is to live in a way that feels true and meaningful to us.
And that leads perfectly into our final reason, number 9, lack of recognition. This one boils down to a fundamental human need, the desire to feel acknowledged and appreciated for our efforts.
We all crave that validation, right? It's like that warm, fuzzy feeling you get when someone notices your hard work and expresses gratitude for your contributions.
But when those efforts go unnoticed, it can breed resentment. Especially if we perceive that others are receiving the recognition we deserve. Imagine pouring your heart into a group project, only to have your contributions overlooked while others are praised.
It's that feeling of being invisible, of not being seen or valued for who we are and what we bring to the table, and it can be really disheartening, especially if it happens repeatedly.
And that's where Stoicism offers a really valuable perspective, shifting our focus from external validation to internal satisfaction. It's about finding fulfillment in the act of doing good work, regardless of whether or not it's acknowledged by others.
So it's about finding that sense of purpose and meaning within ourselves, rather than relying on external sources to validate our worth.
Exactly. And remember, we can't control whether or not others choose to recognize our contributions, but we can control our own attitude and effort. We could choose to approach our work with integrity, excellence, and a genuine desire to make a positive impact.
And if our efforts are acknowledged, that's wonderful. But if not, we can still find satisfaction in knowing that we did our best, that we stayed true to our values.
And that's a much more sustainable and empowering source of fulfillment than relying on the fickle nature of external recognition.
Okay, so we've explored 9 pretty compelling reasons why someone might secretly dislike us. And it's been a fascinating journey through the complexities of human psychology and the timeless wisdom of Stoicism. But I'm wondering, is there anything we can do to prevent these resentments from taking root in the first place? Or are we just doomed to be disliked by someone, no matter how hard we try?
That's a great question, and it's one that the Stoics grapple with as well. They recognize that we can't control other people's emotions or perceptions, but we can certainly influence the dynamics of our relationships through our own choices and actions.
So it's not about being perfect or trying to please everyone, but about being mindful of how our behavior might be impacting others.
Exactly. And one of the key principles that emerges from Stoic philosophy is the importance of living in accordance with nature, which in this context means aligning our actions with our values and striving to live a virtuous life.
So it's about being honest, just courageous, and compassionate in our dealings with others. Those are the core Stoic virtues, right?
Precisely.
Yeah.
And when we embody those virtues in our daily lives, we create a foundation of trust and respect that can help to prevent those seeds of resentment from taking root.
It's like we're building a shield of integrity that deflects those negative vibes.
That's a great analogy.
Mm.
And remember, it's not about being perfect, but about striving to be our best selves, to make choices that align with our values and contribute to the greater good.
And sometimes, despite our best efforts, people will still dislike us. But by living in accordance with our values, we can at least find peace within ourselves, knowing that we're doing our part to create a more harmonious world.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the 9 reasons why people might secretly dislike you. It's been a fascinating exploration of human psychology, and I hope you've gained some valuable insights from our discussion.
I know I have. It's amazing how these seemingly simple reasons can have such a profound impact on our relationships. But as we've learned from Stoicism, we have the power to choose how we respond to these challenges. We can choose to approach them with understanding, compassion, and a commitment to living in accordance with our values. And that, I think, is a powerful message to carry with us as we navigate the complexities of human connection.
Well said. And remember, the journey of self-discovery and growth is ongoing. So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep striving to be the best version of yourself.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you'll join us again next time for another fascinating exploration of human nature and the search for a more meaningful life.
Until then, take care and be well.
Wow, we've really covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, haven't we? It's amazing how these 9 reasons for secret dislike all tie back to such universal human experiences. Envy, insecurity, the need for validation. It's like we're all navigating this complex social maze, bumping into each other and trying to figure out where we fit in.
And that's where Stoicism offers such a valuable perspective. It's not about avoiding those bumps and scrapes altogether. That's impossible. It's about learning how to navigate those challenges with wisdom and grace, to find that inner resilience that allows us to stay centered amidst the chaos.
Okay, so we've explored the 9 reasons, and we've talked about how Stoicism can help us respond to these situations with more understanding and compassion. But I'm still left with this question. What about those people who just genuinely seem to rub us the wrong way? You know, those personalities that grate on our nerves no matter how hard we try to be understanding. Is there any Stoic advice for dealing with those kinds of situations?
That's a great question. And it's one that the Stoics themselves wrestled with. They recognize that there will always be people who challenge us, who push our buttons, who seem to embody everything we dislike. But they also believe that even in those difficult relationships, we can find opportunities for growth and learning.
So it's not about forcing ourselves to like everyone, but about finding a way to coexist peacefully, even with those people who test our patience.
Exactly. And remember, even those difficult people are often struggling with their own internal battles, their own insecurities, and unmet needs.
So maybe instead of judging them or trying to change them, we can try to see them with a bit more compassion, recognizing that they're doing the best they can with what they've got.
That's a very Stoic approach.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean we have to condone their behavior or become doormats. We can still set healthy boundaries to protect our own well-being. But by approaching those relationships with a bit more understanding, we can often diffuse the tension and create a more harmonious dynamic.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like shifting our focus from winning the argument or proving our point to simply finding a way to coexist peacefully.
And sometimes that might mean creating some distance. The Stoics recognize that not all relationships are meant to be close or intimate. And it's okay to step back from those relationships that drain our energy or bring out the worst in us.
So it's about being discerning about who we allow into our inner circle and being mindful of the impact those relationships have on our well-being.
Precisely. And remember, choosing to distance ourselves from someone doesn't have to be a dramatic or confrontational act. It can be as simple as politely declining invitations, setting limits on our interactions, or gently redirecting conversations.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, exploring 9 surprising reasons why someone might secretly dislike you, and how Stoicism offers a powerful framework for navigating those challenging social dynamics. But before we wrap up, I'm wondering if there's one key takeaway, one golden nugget of wisdom that you would leave our listeners with.
I think the most powerful message that emerges from both the article and from Stoic philosophy in general is this: focus on what you can control. You can't control other people's thoughts, emotions, or actions. but you can control your own perceptions, your own responses, your own choices.
So it's about taking responsibility for our own experience rather than getting caught up in trying to change or control other people.
Exactly. And when we shift our focus in that way, we reclaim our power. We become the architects of our own inner peace and well-being, rather than letting external factors dictate our emotional state.
That's a really empowering message to end on. It reminds me of that famous quote from Marcus Aurelius: "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength."
That's a perfect encapsulation of the Stoic philosophy. And it's a reminder that even in the face of challenges, even when we encounter those people who secretly dislike us, we always have the power to choose how we respond, to choose our own attitude, to choose our own path.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a lot more equipped to navigate those tricky social situations now. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and expertise with us today.
It's been a pleasure diving deep into this fascinating topic with you.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope you've gained some valuable insights into the hidden reasons behind secret dislike, and how the timeless wisdom of Stoicism can help us navigate those challenges with more grace and understanding.
Until next time, remember to focus on what you can control, cultivate your inner resilience, and choose to live in accordance with your values.
And with that, we'll leave you to ponder these insights and apply them to your own life. Thanks for listening.